Hey everybody, this is Eric with Where to Hunt. I just wanted to take, a minute or two to kind of just talk about everything we have going on at Where to Hunt. Greg and I have been pretty busy with all sorts of fun stuff. I'm like short of breath for some reason. I don't know why. So here's some of the things we have going on at Where to Hunt that I wanted to just take a second to talk to you all about. We have our general podcast, which is the Where to Hunt podcast, aka the okayest podcast in the Midwest. And that format really is pretty general. It's interviews with different guests. Those guests could be business owners, they could be product people, gear reviews, tactics, strategies, or just simply some BS sessions and shooting the breeze and talking with other people that like to talk about hunting. So we cover a pretty wide gambit there. The show does air every single week on Tuesday nights from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. And we broadcast that live to YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, sometimes Instagram when I can get it to work. And then we have a call-in number. So it's a live call-in, so the number's on the screen, and we encourage people to call in and ask questions, share stories, and talk to some of our guests or just Greg and I ourselves. One of the things that inspired a lot of what I'm doing for Where to Hunt is a book that I read called Play Bigger. That book talks a lot about creating a market and becoming a category king and all this other stuff. I don't care necessarily as much about that, but one principle that stood out to me the most was do things differently rather than better. So I don't think we're the best podcast by any stretch. There's a lot of great podcasts out there. I know a lot of you, I've talked to a lot of you, we've all exchanged maybe being on each other's shows and things like that. What I'm trying to do is to be different. So currently I think we're the only podcast, at least in the hunting community, that is taking live calls. So that's different and exciting, and there's some reasons for that. I really want the podcast to become the people's podcast. I want it to be the voice of the hunting community. That's really important to me, I think, and I'm not an expert. Obviously, I have one 7-pointer on my wall back here, so I'm not getting it done in a major way in terms of putting mature bucks in the ground. I'm stretched very thin between a day job, a startup, and a couple other brands that I manage, as well as raising a family, and I don't have a lot of time to commit to being in the field. So I want to lean on the general hunting collective to kind of inform one another themselves. I think there's a lot of knowledge we can tap into from the everyday hunters out there that are getting it done or not, and just share stories. Greg Tubbs has come on as our co-host last year. He really kind of helps bridge that gap because he is one of those guys that is in the woods way more than me. He is a bit of a gear junkie, and he likes to tinker, and he's a nuts and bolts kind of guy. So he knows how to get it done, and it's really great to have him. He's become such a good friend of mine, and we love hanging out on Tuesday nights and talking with everybody. Some things that we've done now for what the podcast talks about is stories. So there's additionally not a lot of just people focusing on the story of the hunt, which to me is the quintessence. I think at the end of the day, the memories that we have are the things that stay with us forever, the experiences that shape us as hunters. So we started the Most Memorable Hunt podcast series under the umbrella of Where to Hunt, which is really, we ask everybody what their most memorable hunt is on the big show, and then we take that piece out and we film score that with some really high quality audio and sound effects and music to really bring that story to life. And that's been a fun project to work on. We also just spun up Tactic Talk to help again address some of the the thirst for more knowledge, I guess, and quench that thirst for people. So it'll never be more than 15 minutes. We're interviewing a lot of guys and gals that might be under the radar, and maybe less known that have put mature bucks on the ground. Maybe some known people too, either or. We're not discriminating, but we're trying to create a segment that's really a small soundbite that people can consume. Again, trying to be different. So no chewing the fat, no bullshitting, none of that. It's just right down to the point immediately out of the gate. and it's a very granular tactical conversation, and we're going to try to shape that around this season so that way those tactics can mimic maybe where we're at within the hunting season. So right now we're doing a lot of early season tactical conversations, and it seems to be going well so far. We have a whole bunch in the can, so we'll be slow releasing them once a week. And then we also have our Rut Club Radio. So that is a half-hour segment that airs in September through December, and we take calls from around the country to inform rut activity. So I'm trying to paint that picture of really what's going on and hear what's happening around different parts of the country and the state, no matter where you're from. Those are really fun calls that we get to have with everybody. It gets us super freaking pumped up, and it's one of the things I'm really excited about this year because it seemed to be such a hit last year. So hopefully it'll continue to grow, and we might have to make the segment longer if we get more calls and things like that. We're also doing a giveaway now, so we're doing that every 3 months, so once per quarter, and we're doing that exclusively for our Patreon members. So there is a link, or there's a page on our website, so wheretohuntapp.com. There's a giveaway page, and that'll explain to you what that looks like, how it works, and then there's a link that'll take you out to our Patreon membership page for you to sign up. At $5 a month, you get a single entry, and we'll do as many winners as there are gifts to give away. Our products. So we're reaching out to some brands, some that we're partnered with, some that we're not. We're using the money from the members to buy the products that we're going to be giving away. The more people that subscribe, the faster I think it can grow. The bigger the prizes get, the better it becomes. Our goal is to really just give back to our community that way and engage with our listeners even more. And the first one we just did, the giveaway announcement was on June 30th, and we gave away some fun stuff. I just shipped out the tethered Phantom saddle, and then Vector is giving us some arrows, Vector Custom Shop, and Backwoods Grind Coffee is giving out coffee. Lots of fun things there. We already have some brands lined up for our next giveaway, which will be announced on September 30th. So ton of fun there. If you haven't heard about that or don't know what that is, this is why I'm doing this video, to explain all of the stuff we have going on. And then lastly, I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up the app. I'm trying to change some big things in the industry insofar as how people access public land. There's a lot of folks that are new to hunting that didn't have someone in their upbringing to teach them, whether that wasn't their uncle or their dad or whoever, that are becoming more interested in learning more about hunting. And there's a life cycle of a hunter. If we think about hunter safety, outfitting yourself with clothes and gear and understanding the weapons and things like that, but then understanding how to actually locate deer in the field and avoid other hunters, get the deer on the ground, gut it, drag it, and then process it, and eventually eat it. So from beginning to the end, that kind of follows what's called the R3 movement, which is reactivate, retain, and recruit. Maybe not in that order. I think it's recruit, retain, and reactivate specifically. So one thing that the app does, and it's a one-trick pony, so it really doesn't do a whole lot. There's not a lot of bells and whistles, but currently it's still a minimum viable product, so MVP. It helps hunters identify occupied and unoccupied hunting land. Now, I know that this can be a turnoff to some guys that are going in deep and trying to really conceal their spot, and they don't want to publicize that. That's totally fine. Don't use the app, or you can go to the private group feature and you can go incognito. But for everybody else, this thing has grown a lot. We're encroaching on, I think, 60,000 users nationally. And the more people that use it, the better it becomes because we have more insight to look at and more data. What we're doing with that data for this coming season, and hopefully we can get it done, is we're going to be building, or we are building, a heat map that shows hunting pressure. So we're taking all that data from everybody using the app, and we want to inform a heat map from past data. So let's look at what happened last year in terms of hunting pressure. Where was it? This is something that doesn't exist, that I don't see anywhere else, that no one else is doing, that I hear a demand for when I talk to a lot of people on the podcast. Hunting pressure, hunting pressure, hunting pressure. Get away from other hunters, get away from other hunters, get away from other hunters. Avoid one another to increase your success for seeing more deer. That's what this app is trying to do. So I just wanted to, talk to the camera, tell everybody that's kind of what we're up to. So we have the Where to Hunt podcast with the call-in feature. Please give us a call on the Tuesday night. We'd love to hear from you. Then we have our most memorable hunts. We have our tactic talks. We have our Rut Club Radio. We have the giveaways. We have Greg doing a lot of the gear stuff and some of the more of the tactics. We have a great lineup of guests. We try really hard to bring good people onto the show that, I think can help educate and inform everybody. And then, we have the app too. So lots of tools under the Where to Hunt brand. If you love what we're doing, please give the podcast a rating and a review on iTunes. That would be fantastic. If you haven't tried the app yet, I recommend, if you're going to try it with a friend, so that way you can really kind of get a sense for how it works and how you can use it to your benefit. So stay tuned for more. We have lots more cooking, lots more coming. We're working very hard. I just wanted to do a video. That's it. And say howdy to everybody. Have a great week.